first session. Thank you so much, Daniel. And hello, Brian. I'll give you a little bit of intro here. Just before you present. So on August the 12th, 2020, Mozilla laid off its mixed reality team. And with that, the Firefox Reality browser code base was abandoned. And until late 2021, when the Igalia team took the open source code base and reincarnated the fox as a wolf, and the Wolvic browser was born. Not only is Wolvic the only open source immersive browser, it doesn't have a desktop and mobile client. On November 3rd, we'll be hosting a launch event for Wolvic, which you can already get from App Lab. So go to wolvic.com for the link and you can register for the event. Now here to tell us all about the Wolvic's Igalia developer advocate is Brian Kardell. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian.
So we have some overlap. So yeah, I'm Brian Kardell. I'm developer advocate at a company called Igalia. And if you haven't heard of Wolvic, it is the only cross-device open source XR browser out there. And as she said, it has its origins in Mozilla Labs. Mozilla Labs is a digital research arm of Mozilla. They do a lot of really interesting things there. And one of those was called Firefox Reality. But as it shows on the slide here, not all of those projects will become full-fledged Mozilla products. And one of those was Firefox. It wasn't going to graduate. So my company, Igalia, was handed stewardship of this to see it across the finish line and turn into a product. Now, if you are surprised by that, because everybody knows Mozilla, but a lot of people don't know Igalia, there's an excellent article that I would encourage you to go check out in your spare time on the Newsstack called Igalia, the open source powerhouse you've never heard of. It has a lot of details. I won't go into all of them, but just set some concept of who we are and why Mozilla would trust us. This slide is from a presentation at a BlinkOn event. And it is a chart of commits to Chromium from non-Google companies. So the giant orange slice on the left is commits from Igalians. For comparison, that's about the sum total of commits from Microsoft, Opera, and Intel combined. So that's a lot. And we have an even more impressive graph for WebKit and an equally impressive graph for Mozilla projects. So in the web space, we're very well trusted. They thought we could take on this challenge. And we thought it was really interesting because several reasons. I mean, we're just generally interested, but right now seems like kind of an inflection point. It's a trend that we've seen happen before with the adoption of PCs and the internet and smart mobile devices, where there's a lot of interesting things happening. There's this like comparatively small group of sort of pioneers and people, and then it gains this escape velocity and it begins to really escape out into the mainstream. And we think that that's really important because it means that a lot of real foundations that are going to last are starting to be laid now. And we need to really pay attention to it while it's in this stage. So this presentation is going to be in kind of two parts. One is just sort of cool tech stuff. It's like, what is Wolvic? What can it do? What can I expect? And the other is a little bit more high level and abstract. And I'll just call it What's with the Wolf. So as it gains its lineage from Firefox, it retains a lot of the features that you expect from that product. You can send your tabs back and forth between Firefox instance and Wolvic. It retains this privacy focus. Voice search, lots of those interesting things. And then, of course, support for WebXR. Obviously, this is key. I think this is really cool. This is probably my favorite immersive website. You can go to Brushwork and check it out. And I am a painter in my spare time, and I can be on a dark, cold winter night in my living room and painting along a bright, sunny river, and it's great. I really, really like it. One of the things that we did as we took this up is upgrade what we were basing all of this on. So that's a nice change, and adds a lot of support and bug fixes and things for the regular web. We've also done a lot of service things that go into your experience, better rendering, better like keyboard, and we've added these two different environments, which honestly, these pictures don't do it justice. They're gorgeous. It is really, really pleasant to be in there. We've done a lot to create things to enhance your privacy and give you control over that. We've also given you better control over how voice search works. You are, after all, sending your information to someone or fulfilling some voice translation. So you can choose your service as well as your preferred language. You support many, many languages. We've added push notifications, which is really key and important. This is what it looks like. And when you start up, we have a new start page that gives you lots of different experiences. And one of those is a streaming services tab. And this is really interesting. I just want to really call it out because, we test these and they just are the regular websites for these streaming services. There's nothing explicitly XR about them, but they just launch in theater mode. And I think this is really interesting because, again, it has nothing to do with regular XR. And it's not immediately intuitive why you would want to strap a device to your face to watch them. I was personally, I'm going to admit, dubious, but then I saw it and wow, I totally get it. And it made me have a larger observation that we're generally kind of bad at seeing a lot of things until suddenly we see it. Like we sort of did this with the web itself. There's a good tech talk on this, but also who's going to spend time browsing the web on a mobile phone? It's tiny and like your fingers are clumsy, and a lot of the websites aren't made to cooperate with that. And your data plan is expensive. Videos, can't even imagine it. But then we see it and we say, oh, wow, yeah, I see why it'd be so good. And we begin to reimagine everything, and the technology space around us improves. And I think that is, we're in that moment right now, I think. Another thing that we added is kiosk mode. This can be really useful for all sorts of things. If you're going to a trade show and you want to just show things off and not just give people a wide open web browser, but also if you're going to use it for like art installations or at a film festival. Another thing that is going to be used for is like links. The Links R1 is planning on using a thing like this for their app store. So speaking of the Links R1, there's a number of places where you can Wolvic. Wolvic.com/DL has a bunch of things like the Huawei VR glasses and the Oculus. It's also coming to some other devices as the default, like the HTC and the Links R1 and growing list, we hope. Probably the biggest like technical thing that we've done since we've taken over is this multi-engine architecture. We've reimagined the browser. We've re-architected things. I realize that these are too small to see, but if we could zoom in on them, they would look like this. They're all pointing to what's my user agent. And these are cryptic strings, but this one in particular says that it's based on WebKit. And it's not a lie. We're testing and evolving, making it possible to swap out the engines in here. Now, that's intellectually really interesting, maybe, but you might be wondering, like, why would you do that? There's a lot of reasons, but part of the reasons for this is uncertainty in the ecosystem. So that is a good place to segue into this more abstract question about what's with the wolf, because really a lot of thought went into this. Like really basic things at first were like, well, there's a long tradition of animal themed browsers and we're coming from a fox, so let's keep it in the canine family. But much more than that. Wolves in mythology and literature are shown as rescuing, nurturing, and the pack protecting protagonists who later turn out to play really important roles. This picture on the screen is from the Jungle Book, but also like Romulus and Remus in Roman mythology and the founding of Rome. As we said, real foundations are being established now, and we want to be here to help nurture and protect it in all the right ways so that it can be the positive thing that we believe that it can one day. So one of those things, really key, is ensuring that you have access to the web. And believe it or not, it's not a given. It's a thing that we have to consciously strive to continue to keep alive. A lot of these devices are new immersive operating systems, and establishing whole new paradigms is not a guarantee that the web comes along for the ride. But that's a shame, because the world is built on the web. It doesn't matter what you want to do today. If you want to check an email or send a message, find information about news or sports that you care about, or politics, pay a bill, watch video, have an interactive discussion with somebody, like, the web has all of this today. And more importantly, it's built on open things. We want to guarantee that we retain not just the web, but all the principles that underlie the web. Open paradigms and principles about security and privacy, accessibility, device agnosticism. All of these things could easily be left behind as we establish these new things. We want to make sure that we're around to help it establish good foundations on these platforms. We want to make sure that it has what it needs to grow and continue to evolve these new features. And that is also not a given today, because the web, even outside of XR, that ecosystem today is really challenging. This is another reason why we chose a wolf. Wolves are described as a keystone species, very important to maintaining the health of the ecosystems that they exist in. There are places here like Yellowstone where wolves were hunted to near extinction, and the follow-on effects of that are like radical, like rivers were rerouted. It's hard to understand how that happens, but I encourage you to go look it up. We've begun reintroducing wolves, and the ecosystem has started to right itself. So we thought this is also a good parallel, because the web is also dependent upon this open source ecosystem, and at least currently is kind of delicate and flawed. And we know, because that's what Igalia does. Engines today cost hundreds of millions of dollars per year to maintain. It's unsustainable to go it alone. There are all kinds of challenges in open source, incentives and disincentives to contribute back to those pies that we were looking at. So we think also another parallel here is that the pack is really important. This is, all of us need to come together to make this really successful. We think that's what we do. It's more about putting code on GitHub. All those commits in that chart from Igalia represent contributions from lots of businesses sponsoring some kind of work in a healthier commons open source community. So we've helped bring about features like CSS Grid and the has pseudo class, MathML, improvements to SVG, lots of new JavaScript features. So we think we're looking at Wolvic as a new chance, a new paradigm, a new medium that we can help establish in a really healthy, sustainable, open way. So we're looking at it differently. We're building partnerships with companies like FutureWay and Lynx, and to some extent HTC and other companies. If you're making a device or you have an extreme interest in XR, then come talk to us. I think that would be great. Looking forward, we're going to have a summit in November to talk about some of these things. Please definitely come to that. For 2023, our goals are to maybe finish the multi-engine architecture, hopefully with a Chromium implementation. Chromium has one of the more complete sets of WebXR features, so that would be a really good thing to have. We'd like to have millions of users on 4+ supported devices and in stores by the end of 2023. We think that's very, very possible. And we would like to also work on providing additional means for additional devices that we're not currently actively working on specifically yet. We also want to focus a lot on AR in the upcoming year, because there are a lot of needs there that are currently unmet. And we also really, really want to have this conversation and expand the way we're doing collective funding and prioritization. We need better ways to discuss the prioritization of all of the needs of the web platform, and specifically for these devices. So we look forward to doing that with you. That's it. That's all I have.
Ryan, thank you so much for your presentation. Really encouraging to see all the work you're doing. Would love to learn a lot more about it, but for now, best of luck with your progress, and hope you get all the support you need. So thank you, Brian. And I know I use Wolvic. Everybody go and download it and check it out. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.
All right.
All right.